Pay attention to this Bitcoin chart as you're observing how a large volume of selling has tried to push the price of Bitcoin down. And as we can see, not very successfully. In other words, we are facing trapped shorts against sellers whose bearish idea has been completely frustrated. And if we analyze this market trap, we find ourselves at the bottom, as it couldn't be otherwise. Look at the predominant color here. Look at the volume. And obviously, with what delta we are observing how these sellers, accompanied by the second bearish attempt, as you can see in this green candle, have really tried to sell as they betray themselves. If we look at and analyze the inside of the candles and see how these sellers have not been able to push the price down so little and have again absorbed the sale. What you have just seen is an order flow chart, and it refers to this range. Because you have seen how here the sellers have failed in their attempt to push the price down, and how in the trap zone they have also failed in an extreme way. Well, it is important to know what the sellers are doing, since it is evident that they are actively taking a very aggressive bearish stance, but in return, we are not seeing the result that these people expect. Now, you are looking at the Bitcoin chart in its 1 hour time frame, and here you are going to identify how we are working with this structure. Here, they have anchored us to the price in a very evident way. Here, they have validated it for us, and look at how recently the price can justify the trap of this defense zone just because they wanted to go look for the structure that gives sense to this bullish channel. Since if you look at the ceiling of the channel, notice how well the alpha angle works. So, looking at the structure and also telling you that we have updated it, since before the level passed to something similar to around here, which simply was interpreted as a trap. But now we encompass it in the structure. Now, what we are seeing is how this bullish impulse is being followed up in the form of a channel. And if we zoom in a bit on the area of interest, we are considering a click at the price level of $69,593. Since it seems relevant to me that we have come to look for, with a climactic action, a relevant structure to generate a trap scenario that they may want to come and protect later. And here the work, or the important part, is to see what the big institutions may be plotting, and we do this by analyzing the volume. And for that, we return to the order flow chart, where it all began. If we zoom out a bit, you're seeing the same chart here. And now notice the following. See with what aggressiveness the price falls with a significant volume that is accompanied by a completely selling bit. That sale, as I said, doesn't seem to have borne fruit. We attack again. A climactic volume appears again accompanied by a delta clearly oriented to the bit, and we see that this sale again does not prosper either. In other words, they have set a relevant level for us, a level that in crypto insight we call the defense zone. We also know that traps are usually set over defense zones. Here we have the trap. Notice how it falls and how it recovers. All of this is a trap. And now notice with what momentum they are falling, where in the last candle at the extreme we see a climactic volume and, as it could not be otherwise, with a delta clearly oriented to the beat. A sale that we see is not progressing, so we can say that the sellers seem to be getting trapped. And this, for the sellers, of course, is not at all a good sign. If instead for the buyers, if we look inside again, after the trap scenario that we have already analyzed at the beginning of the video, notice how much red, how much sale that does not prosper after the price can recover us, we see again that selling intention. Notice we are facing a great bearish impulse. There is a lot of sale in the area and we see that it does move the price, but not to give it continuity. Wow, they've absorbed it over the defense zone that it just recovered. And we are going to give importance to that, of course. And now what we're seeing is that the price is respecting the zone. Okay, while we see this in Bitcoin, look at what we see in Ethereum in its 4-hour time frame. Because in previous videos of Crypto Insight, after seeing that the price had broken this crick so forcefully, what we wanted to see was a structural validation to immediately continue bearishly with its quotation. What do they tell us? Hey, we've broken a distribution that comes from a compression of a relevant structure that the retail investor obviously doesn't know, but we at Crypto Insight put it on the table before the price even contacted it. And what does Ethereum tell us? Friend, they are distributing us here and we have broken the crick with a lot of volume. Right now, there is an alert state where there are possibilities of further declines. After we have seen how the price made a test to continue the movement, now we are going to zoom out a bit in this 4-hour time frame to realize that we have to go to the daily time frame. Here we have Ethereum in a macro bullish channel. You already know it very well. I'm sure you'll remember how weeks ago, or rather, a month or so ago, we were talking about the concept in which Ethereum had worked a bearish impulse That here we have AEW, that this was a poor I, and that we were experiencing a Z in the crypto ecosystem. As you know, Bitcoin, that concept in which we were looking for a reaction at the origin of the breakout finally decided to continue upwards. And in the case of Bitcoin, it has broken historical highs. We see that Ethereum has not, and this is very representative for what I'm going to explain to you. Here it should be noted that we have a macro distribution that marked the beginning of Ethereum's bear market, in which we have identified the point of control, the level of highest transactional volume of this entire distribution, which has set a level for us, specifically at $4,053. And it is here where the price has decided to react. React to what? We are considering that we are experiencing a ZI. In fact, that concept gains a lot of strength. Okay, now let's go to a 4-hour time frame, since in that time frame I'm going to explain to you what we are seeing and the impact it can have on the crypto ecosystem in the short, medium, and long term. But before that, welcome to Crypto Insight, your ethical and moral channel for cryptocurrency technical analysis. Here, we really know what we're talking about. We conduct advanced technical analysis that has been developed for over 12 years. We upload videos several times a week. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, let me know and leave a comment with your opinion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss the next opportunity. We were saying that Ethereum has gone to impact against a very relevant level, and that all this, in essence, is a Z part of a complex corrective pattern. A Z that they have decided to work in a wedge format. A format very common in ZS after impacting against a macro-relevant structure. And I have already explained to you why this structure is so relevant, and see if it is macro, belonging to the 2021 distribution. So, we see how they have broken the wedge downwards. Remember that the wedge of a zeta is always broken with great aggressiveness. And here we have that aggressiveness. On the other hand, here we have the crick, or the guideline of the Z. It was that distribution that we were evaluating in previous videos. Later on, we saw how it broke, and as I showed you a while ago, here we evaluate a test to continue falling. So now what we are seeing is that all this in itself, we are going to consider the hypothesis that it is a complete distribution. Because if we finally see that all this is a Z, all this, there will be a bias, even if it is temporary, towards wanting to look down. That does not mean going back to very, very low levels, but there will be a bias. It could be temporary and brief, or it could be lasting and aggressive. That remains to be seen. That is why we have come to look for this guideline. A level that considers all this price behavior that we are evaluating. We are not trying to predict the future, but it could be a compression against a relevant structure. In other words, it could be a distribution. What else catches my attention? Well, that from their home, they throw themselves and try to break such a structure right off the bat poses a challenge for me, because we don't usually break such relevant structures in this way. And under this hypothesis, we don't believe that we will break such relevant structures if we throw ourselves from so far away. Hey, we don't know if they are going to set a trap for us here. Of course they can, but one way or another. I would find it hard to believe in an immediate bearish continuation from this point. Whether with a trap or without it, what we can expect is that with respect to this bearish impulse, we will experience some kind of correction. We'll see if it's brief or deep. All that remains to be seen, but we will consider that option. And under this hypothesis, and going down to the 1-hour time frame, here we come to identify where the potential crick of an accumulation process can be, which we have already analyzed in the Bitcoin chart. Well, here we have an aggressive accumulation that comes to protect its position. We'll see if they finally decide to hold it or not, but I'll show you that shortly, as I also want to show you the Cardano chart. Remember how this line represents a very, very relevant macro level. At the same time, we are now working on a defense zone that seems to be respected by the price. And under the same hypothesis as Bitcoin and Ethereum, here we are looking for where the crick of a potential bullish accumulation process can occur, which we will see how brief it is and where it takes us. But if you notice, yes, we are considering a bullish path for the immediate and short term, but we must not forget that we are considering it basically because we are in a structural zone where it makes sense that with respect to the bearish impulse, it is not immediately broken, but that there is some kind of correction. That's why we are looking for that long side for the short term, but in reality it makes sense to bet in the medium-long term on a bearish directionality that I will detail for you soon. Without forgetting that Bitcoin has not yet touched 78K, and in my judgment, at some point after that medium-term bearish, we will go look for those 78K and we'll see if we continue from there. I'll show you Cardano so you can see the context of the defense zone, which they may also be compressing, and we'll see if they do this to offer us at least an immediate bullish move. Remember that Solana is our indicator, our proxy, and we have been working with a wedge with Solana. A wedge that we have, of course, adjusted the inclination since previously we were working with a different inclination. The price has continued to develop and we simply update it. We are following the price, adapting to it. What is the idea of Solana as an indicator? Let's keep watching if this wedge lasts. Remember that it can keep going up as much as it wants, and if it keeps going up, we will update the wedge as it needs to be updated. It will be done. But what is the moral of the story? As long as Solana rises, cryptocurrencies, from the perspective of a cross-technical analysis, can continue to rise. But when Solana's wedge is aggressively broken downwards, perhaps it will be time to prioritize shorts in the market. That's why we are monitoring this wedge, as at some point, imagine if they do it soon, making a strong bearish impulse. Here, a lot of caution because bearish moves could come in the crypto ecosystem. Do not use this as a prediction, rather as a concept, an indicator, because if this keeps going up, you can keep doing it, and we will continue working with that wedge until it tells us when it's time to start looking down. Remember, it's your indicator, and as many of you are asking about SHIBA INU, here it is. Here they have worked on a macro bullish accumulation process that we have been observing. Inside here they have worked on a micro accumulation process, which we were following to see when we were going to go up. That when is at the moment of the breakout. However, smart money has not even offered us a test to try our conservative entry, but on the contrary, they have pressed the accelerator and left without waiting for anyone. It's amazing how much the price has risen. It's not close to the all-time highs, but this volatility already reminds us of the volatility typical of SHIBA INU. Okay, I'm sure you'll remember, as in previous videos, that we wanted to follow up on buying SHIBA INU when the price was around here, but what did we want? That it first dropped a bit, offered us a coherent entry point to join. But no, SHIBA INU is full, and not used to the fact that after a strong bullish impulse they create something like a channel and these people break it and go. Frankly, something pseudo-unnatural, but that's how they do it. They did it in the past and they've done it again. And now in the 4-hour time frame we see the price. How have they set a level for us? A defense zone that they have recently come here to protect. In the end, this zone is what invites us to look for and try re-entries in the market. And going to a 1-hour time frame, here the ideal is for the price to want to react at $27.8, as they would be sending a message in which this accumulation process, which at the same time was a trap from the defense zone, would be saying that these institutions would continue to protect a key level to avoid seeing their position in the red. Therefore, if you see that the zone is attacked with strong aggressiveness and it is respected and holds, it is then when we could expect an upward movement, and here we would study the breakout of the crike to expect a continuation upwards. Of course, it all depends on whether the price also respects this zone, because if they decide to drop and not respect the defense zone, we would have to be thinking about different structures. Therefore, the hypothesis would no longer work. Look how easy it is to follow this level, and that's it. So I'm going to tell you that with Bitcoin. It's something similar to SHIBA INU. Look, in the end, here we have a defense zone. Here we have an accumulation process that made a trap to look for a well-identified alpha angle. And now we want to see how this defense zone continues to be protected, since such an event gives the opportunity to see how the price does not break the crick, validates it, and seeks an impulsive movement. And with Ethereum, we're going to take a bit more perspective, because here we're going to observe if this zone is defended. It's key that it's defended, because if they defend the defense zone, watch out, they could set a trap around $35 or $13 approx. We must give them that margin as long as they recover quickly. If we see something like that, we would bet on the breakout and an impulsive movement. Ultimately, remember that we would be evaluating its corrective pattern regarding this bearish impulse. We'll see how far it goes. Let's see if it wants to surpass the breakout origin or not. But perhaps they decide to take more time than expected. But the idea is that after the tremendous bearish impulse, they try to break that trend line. The temptation to do so, if we see a bullish separation in Ethereum, will be strong and present. That temptation to seek that level, that structure. It's another thing whether it manages to break it or not. No one knows that yet. If it breaks, it would undoubtedly invite us to seek a somewhat more bearish trajectory. Although, watch out, it wouldn't be something infinite. Far from it. Perhaps they'll take us to a 1-to-1 target, something like that, to keep going up. Because remember that the long-term macro bias we have on crypto is bullish, but the medium term makes sense for them to try something bearish, and for the immediate and short term, it makes sense to look for long positions. If you found this advanced technical analysis interesting, let me know in the comments. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so that YouTube notifies you of future posts. And of course, share this content with your friends and other trading and cryptocurrency communities. Good luck with your operations, and until next time.